Vladimir Putin has not been having the best, well, really last couple of years, but even more recently, with the fall of Syria, Vladimir Putin has just had the worst time ever. So here's a quick recap on just some of the stuff that Putin has been facing for the last sort of couple of years. First of all, you have the invasion of Ukraine, which, let's be honest, has not been going well. Yes, Putin's forces have taken territory. They are slowly but surely moving ever so slightly forward. However, they are paying for that advance in over 103, 1,000. It's like 1,000 at least casualties more a day that they are doing. There have been more casualties in this war than the entire Soviet Union's 10-year adventure in Afghanistan. The losses on this, I think the real numbers are going to be staggering. And remember, that's just dead. That's not even including the people who are permanently wounded for this campaign. We've seen recently that Russian soldiers were rioting because of the poor healthcare that they were being given by being forced back into the front line when they hadn't even been recuperated, because it's become such a meat grinder. You have huge problems, of course, in Russia with these new, quote, occupied territories in Donetsk, where they have no running water. They have no sort of food supply. But this is meant to be these new glorious territories that have been annexed by this amazing, states. They're not. If you've seen some of the videos, one circulating on Twitter recently was one person where they are running out, trying to find water as much as they can before they freeze to death. Doesn't sound like Russia's really going to take care of these new places, are they? Not only that, you also had this week in the Russian State Duma, they have been discussing bringing back rationing cards. Rationing cards for a country whose, again, largest export is meant to be wheat. Like, is Russia having such problems that it is now having problems with its own domesticated food supply? I think if you are in the Duma and you're having to discuss that, you've got some serious problems. Not only that, but Ukraine just took out one of Putin's big military chiefs, especially when it comes to the nuclear armament stuff. Again, quite a significant problem. And that's just his domestic front, bear in mind. Ukraine, of course, not going very well for him. He will have to sue for some sort of peace. It's not going to be worth it in the end, quite frankly. And then what happens? I think that when these soldiers start returning and start telling what was going on the front lines, not going to be good. These sanctions aren't going to be lifted anytime soon. There will be a massive wave of unemployment in Russia. Massive unemployment, for that's for sure. We've talked before about their economy cannot sustain this post-war, effort that they will try and do. We've seen, their economy is basically took a nosedive into the toilet just a couple of weeks ago after America sanctioned the Gazprom bank. So things are not looking good, certainly on the domestic front. Ukraine has been an absolute disastrous military adventure. And what the future for that holds is basically that if Putin ever had the hope of trying to bring Ukraine back into sort of, Russia's control, this invasion has pretty much sealed the idea that the Ukrainians are never, ever going to live under Russian control ever again. And now, of course, we turn away from there to the other problems that Putin's been facing. You look for example, at what's going on in Georgia, where it's very clear that they are trying to install pro-Russian puppets who are going to basically say and do whatever Putin wants. Meanwhile, the people of Georgia, for the past, 18, 19 days, I believe at this point, have been out in mass protest, not only just in their capital cities of Tbilisi, but across the whole country, saying this is not the direction we want to go in. We do not want to be, slaves to the Russians. We want to be free of them. And those continuing protests are becoming an ever increasing problem. What could happen there? Who knows? That is still an ongoing situation. Will it turn into a full-blown revolution? Quite probably. This is going very similar to what we saw in Ukraine with the Euromaidan. Then, of course, you go on to Syria. And Syria is now pretty much at this point under new leadership. Assad is gone. We are getting all these stories about what happened with his war crimes, the mass graves that are being uncovered, just horrific stuff. And yet, Russia aided in that, bombed for years during this civil war, hospitals, all these types of things. The Syrian people do not like Russia. The chances of them keeping that base are very, very slim. Very slim indeed. And if they lose that base, then they lose a huge stop-off point for their operations that they are carrying out in Africa. Without that, their next big airport base is in Lebanon, but that is not Lebanon, in Libya, and that is currently owned by a warlord, and even that is again a state of civil war. What if they lose that? So even Russia's, foreign adventures it has in Africa, which also have not been going well, especially if you've been looking at the stuff that's going on in Mali, where their forces are being constantly ambushed and destroyed, it's not looking good. And now we come on to Armenia, because this is going to be Putin's big headache next. Remember, Armenia had security guarantees from Russia. So what happened during this invasion? Azerbaijan went, we don't think you can help Armenia. So they went in, took a slice of territory called Narrow-Karabakh, and they basically own that now. And over 120,000 Armenians have left that area because Azerbaijan has basically said, this is our territory now. You've got to speak our language. You've got to follow our rules. We'll give you a year basically to leave. And what happened during that? Remember, Azerbaijan killed Russian peacekeeping forces. Putin did nothing about it. When Armenia went to Russia for help, Putin did not come to help. The Russian army did not come to help. During the peace negotiations, Putin basically gave Azerbaijan everything it wanted, and Armenia was treated horribly. And now the Armenian people have said, hey, hold on a second. Why are we such, slaves to the Russians when they have given us nothing? They have done nothing for us. It's about time we started to think again. And there has been a new political party called the New Democratic Front, I believe they are, the NDV or something like that, I believe they are called. But they are pushing a more Western agenda, that we want to be more pro-Western, just as the Georgians are doing. And that party is growing. It looks like that they could very, very easily win the next election that could happen in Armenia. And once again, Putin could lose another big ally. So all over, nothing is going well for Russia. It all starts, of course, back with Ukraine and the war that Putin decided to start. So things aren't going well. And like I say, Armenia looks like it could be his next big headache, especially if that new party wins with their definite focus of, yeah, we don't want to be, um, you know, subservient to Russia anymore. I think we've got the picture. We're not really wanted. We're not really valued as a partner, as apparently Putin has claimed that they are. So yeah, we're going to go in a different direction. But remember what happened to Georgia when that happened as well. So we'll see what happens. But all these problems are just undermining Putin's entire sort of strategy, whatever strategy that might have been that he had. But yeah, there is constant pressure for all of Russia on all these fronts, and Putin is losing huge influence, huge opportunities that he had to try and sort of push Russia's influence sort of beyond its borders. That has now failed. That is now pretty much gone, and Russia is going to be isolated for that probably for quite some time, quite frankly. But how long will he last? Well, I don't think he will last very too much longer. I think after this war ends, I think after the soldiers start returning home, after they start telling the stories about what happened, you've got the guy in Chechnya who's again running Chechnya with a complete iron-controlled fist, Kadyrov. If he dies, he's not a well man. If he dies anytime soon, Chechnya could soon pop off, which could be another headache. You've then got Dagestan as well. They're again waiting for the opportunity to sort of throw off, Russian, overlordship. All kinds of stuff could happen in the next year or coming years, and none of it is going to be good for Putin. So we watch with interest to see what's going to happen. But yeah, like I say, Putin hasn't been having a very good couple of years. He's not going to have a couple of more good years. That's for certain. There's just far too many things ahead of him that are going to be huge problems for him. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.